Top coins to maximize profit. This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name is Neil. We keep technical analysis short and sweet. So we're actually looking at BNT right now, as we had our entry in right when it broke this downward trend line, as it had 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth touch broke that, and we had our entry in that push upwards. We could see a little bit of retracement still on BNT to fill out the inverse head and shoulders. We're currently up 10% on that entry, but we could see this retrace a little bit depending on what Bitcoin does, and then ultimately pushing up, breaking the 69 cent and pushing up towards this dotted red line being a fair value gap before we start seeing some rejection like we did back here in January 17th. So with that being said, we could see that push up real quick and then form bigger inverse head and shoulders. For the main idea on this is 69 cents. Its all-time high is $10. It definitely has a very, very long way to go to be pushing up to that $10 mark. And it's just the waterfall effect. It was way up here. This is $9, but the all-time high is 10. So keep BNT on your radar, as it is a very good bet. But again, not financial advice. And DNT, similar to BNT, we were waiting for it to slowly creep across this downward trend line, which it did. And as soon as it crossed over, it used it as support, pushed up over that 200 EMA, is now using the 200 EMA as support to continue that push up to 4 cents. Also, DNT, similar to BNT, has a very nice all-time high all the way up here at around 26 cents. So 2 cents to 26 cents is a major gain. The first stop, we would imagine, is nearly 100% increase, potentially a little bit more than that, around 120% for that push up. It is lagging behind some of the other coins because it does want to see what Bitcoin is about to do, but I believe this is starting to build some support, and we are going to start seeing some upward momentum for DNT as well as BNT. Bringing in Doge. Someone asked me about TIA. TIA is still in consolidation, but once it gets over that 200 EMA, it'll look a little bit better. But when we're moving over to Doge USD, say Coinbase, we broke that 16 to 17 cent mark, and as soon as it made it over the 200 EMA, it had that major push up to 21 cents before coming back into the CM Guppy, getting support right where the green meets the blue. And then starting to push back up towards that 21 cent mark. Once it breaks 21 cents, the next stop is 24. If it blasts past 24, potentially 29, and then 43 cents before getting a little bit more of rough waters and starting to push back down to finish out a major cup and handle pattern. Elon Musk supports this coin. He accepts it for Teslas, I believe. But very high potential profit on Doge, as it can be hitting $4 from 21 cents. Moving over real quick to Wormhole. Someone had suggested Wormhole. I said don't buy it, as there's not a whole bunch of information off of it, but they are partnering with XLM, I believe, and XRP. So right when I saw that news that had that major sell-off, it may not look like a whole bunch, but if you entered, that's still around 10% loss. Currently only at 2% loss, but there's not enough information here to decide if this is going to be going up or down. It just has this one support area right around here. However, we have seen this happen with math back in the day. We didn't think math was going to do exactly what it did, and we saw the very first information that was being printed was something like this. And they're like, I don't want to buy that because it looks debatable. But if you were to enter right whenever it held support off that 200 EMA, it still had a major push up. From that entry to the top is about 377% within a day, which is astronomical. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at Wormhole. IOTX is something we had an entry on when it broke over this downward trend line. And IOTX also has some major potential to start moving upwards. When we're looking at it in the daily, the bigger picture, we are seeing that this black trend line is holding very nice support. We just need to get over that 200 EMA before we start seeing a major pump up like we saw back here in October 31st. But with that pump, we may see some consolidation or rejection right around the 618 or 0.5 area before touching this downward trend line. And when it touches this downward trend line, we may get a little rejection before touching again and breaking towards the upside. And it is currently at 2 cents. And I believe its all-time high is up here around 59 cents or 50 cents. So that's also a major potential gain. Just putting in anything right now for IOTX, you are more likely than to just double, triple, or 5x your money just from an entry of 2 cents. Say turn a nickel into a dime. This is turning 2 cents into 2 quarters. So pretty massive potential gain with IOTX. GRT trying to break that downward trend line, looking very nice and stable now as it is holding above the 200 EMA. It's touched it about 3 times on the downward trend line. If this pushes and breaks, we may see some consolidation and rejection here in the 10 to 11 cent mark, but also GRT has some major potential as it needs to touch this downward trend line here around 22 cents, which is nearly double money. But once it breaks that 20 cent area, it also has a very long way to go to hit its all-time high. Here around, I believe, 350 is what I saw on a different chart. But right here on this chart, it'd be around $2.89 from a 10-cent investment, which is very good profit. Even if you're trying to figure out how the market works, this is a very low point. It's getting some nice consolidation, and we just have to push over that 200 EMA and break this downward trend line before you start seeing that major pump. But 10 cents, the next stop is 20 cents. Very good entry at this moment. Not financial advice, any of it. Bitcoin is getting consolidation as expected. Looking at these ghost candles, we could see some consolidation before a push up, retrace, and testing this support area before a continuation pump. So with that being said, I didn't use QNT very much in the last video, but this is QNT building very nice support, holding above the 200 EMA, looking very similar to Tornado Cash, where it's very nice and healthy market. And we will start seeing this push up towards the 1 area on the Fibonacci, and that is the high currently at around 124, 125, before ultimately either breaking that or considering it a double top, depending on what Bitcoin does, pushing downwards and potentially holding support around this 110 above the 200 EMA before pushing up again. It will take a little bit of time, in my opinion, but QNT is definitely good to keep a bag of as a swing trade, as this will push up a little bit slower than some of the other markets, as we were talking about XLM and Hbar. Hbar had that major pump up. If you're in my trading channel, you gain that push up, which is around, I think we got it in around 20 cents, 10 to 15% increase on that. So Hbar I'm stacking a little bit, not heavily, but I am sticking more with XRP and XLM. Talked about PERP in the previous video. And looking at Compound did exactly what we had talked about in the previous video, where it pushed up over the 200 EMA, held it as support, came up, touched this black downward trend line, got some rejection and support off that 200 EMA. So this is looking a lot healthier. I believe this is going to consolidate and creep over this downward trend line before ultimately pushing back up towards the $61 mark. But it also has a very high all-time high, around $459, I believe. Oh, sorry, 1,000. So that's well over 10x your money. It is at an ultimate low right now. Buying at this point, there is not really a way to lose your money, as we are starting to get more and more bullish momentum and support off these upward trend lines. Not financial advice, but now is not a bad entry for Compound, as it does have some major potential gains coming your way. And lastly, finishing off with XCN. XCN broke out of that downward wedge as we were looking over the past couple of months here. This black trend line pushed up over, tried to hold support over the 200 EMA, did not work. use this black trend line as support on the way down before ultimately breaking up over that 200 EMA and now testing it again as support. I believe XCN is going to start pushing up very quickly and heavily. So grab your bag of XCN before it's too late. It is currently at 16 or a penny and a half, more or less, and has an all-time high of 18 cents. Very good, quick, rapid movements. If you put your money in XCN, you can pull it out and put it into another coin before that coin takes off, as the other ones are a little bit more healthy. This is best for very quick, rapid movements if you were in on this 2,000% gain before an ultimate retracement, and then that pump up again. And we are going to see this cup and handle pattern fill out, most likely, moving into the daily. You can see it's looking very nice and healthy, holding over that 200 EMA when it pushed underneath, had that major pump up, and is now holding it as support. We just need to break a downward trend line before pushing back up to that 5 cent mark and beyond, up to 10 and 18 cents. That's it for today. Like and subscribe if you want. References in the links below for Coinbase, KuCoin, MEXC, Roller Coin, all that good stuff. Good luck and have fun with it.